Hi, I'm Rocco Stano, and welcome to StoryMakers on KidLit TV. Today I have Doug Kuntz with me, who's a photojournalist, and he is the author of this book called Lost and Found Cat. For our viewers, what exactly does a photojournalist do?
A photojournalist basically tells a story using pictures as opposed to words. And that story can happen at any place in the world. And this story started in Greece and ended in Norway.
This book is about refugees, and it's about a cat, and a story about a refugee family. So a refugee, for those that are not familiar with the word, what is a refugee?
A refugee is someone who's had to leave the place where they were, probably their home in this case, and they have to find a new home, and they have to leave the home that they have it can be a number of reasons. It could be because of war, it could be because of economics, like there's no crops, there's bad weather, or it could be about politics.
Tell us about the family in this book.
This is a family that it was a mother and her 5 children who lived in Mosul, which is in Iraq, and they had to leave Iraq because of war.
But they couldn't just get on a plane and leave.
No.
No, it was a little more difficult than that.
They couldn't. I mean, even though they might have been able to do that, they had to use smugglers to get them from one country to the next. They had to use smugglers to even get them out of their own country because war was going on, so it was difficult to travel.
They paid a person to help sneak them out of the country.
A lot of money.
How did they sneak them out?
They basically walked. They took some cars and whatnot, but they traveled a great distance through forests and other parts of Iraq walking. They did take cars, I believe, but they traveled a great distance like many other of people who had to leave Iraq and other countries.
There was a mother and 5 children, and there was a cat.
The cat's real name is KUNKUSH.
Where were they heading?
They were heading to Greece, which they were heading really to Turkey, which is the way to get to Greece, which is the first European country that they can get to. But that, for these people, is not their final destination.
Right, they were going to Greece because the Greek people would accept them into the country and help them?
Greece, that was the jumping off point to go to other countries in Europe, Germany, France, but you had to get to Greece first.
When a person moves here in the United States, they bring a moving van and they pack up all their possessions, but being a refugee, you can't do that.
They left everything behind, and I saw hundreds of thousands of refugees, and they basically traveled with what they could carry on their back.
And so one of the things they carried with them was KUNKUSH?
KUNKUSH, because KUNKUSH was their prized possession. They couldn't leave the cat behind, so they carried the cat in a box.
Here we see them in a car. Eventually, they were carrying their cat in a carrier on the rubber raft. Why is it a lost and found cat?
Because when the raft hit the beach in Greece, it was rather rough, and during the journey, the little cat carrier that they had, the latch broke on the door. So when one of the children put the carrier down to go back to the raft to help the rest of the family, the door opened up and the cat, who was quite frightened from the trip across the Aegean Sea, jumped out and ran into the woods.
I'm sure that the whole family was really...
they were devastated.
Devastated, right?
And it's complicated, but they're in Greece, and it's really a stopping off point to get to the country that they're really trying to get to. And so legally, they can't stay in Greece. So I believe they looked for the cat for 3 hours, and then they had to move on to a place where they would fill out paperwork to figure out where they were going next.
So this cat is lost.
The cat was lost. But the cat was lost in a town that has hundreds of other cats. They
really?
have many, many cats. It's this little fishing village. So there's many, many cats there. And they, like in this country, they don't have programs where they could spay and neuter cats. So they had a little bit of a cat problem in this town where they had lots of cats.
The townspeople actually kind of feed these cats?
It's a fishing town, so
There's lots of fish.
lots of fish, and the cats just hang out near the dock.
Right. The spread with the cats, and the cats aren't very welcoming, are
They're
they?
not very friendly
No.
towards poor KUNKUSH.
He looks rather frightened here.
He looks frightened, and he was a white cat that wasn't so white anymore because he was hiding in the forest for 4 or 5 days before he finally came out. A girl named Ashley Anderson, who's a friend of my co-author Amy Schroeds, she saw the cat and she remembered that this cat was lost, and I think she was almost sure that it was the lost cat, and she asked around, and sure enough it was the lost cat from a family that no one knew their name and no one knew what country they were going to, but they knew that they had lost their cat. And they knew they were from Iraq.
So she knew that they were refugees from Iraq.
Yes, definitely. Ashley and Amy took it upon themselves to say, well, and they had been there for a long time helping out the refugees who were arriving by the tens of thousands. I think one day 7,000 people arrived.
Ashley and Amy are Americans who work with refugees.
Amy was someone who had contacted me through another agency because they knew that I had been over there like 3 or 4 times as a photojournalist. And Amy was actually on her way to India, but she heard about the problems there with many refugees, no food, they had problems. So she said, look, I'm a large crowd cook. Can I help there? She basically can make soup for 1,000 people. And I said, yes. Come on over, and that's how I met Amy, my co-author.
What were you doing there?
I went on my own as a photojournalist to try and raise awareness and help people. I got people to donate medical equipment, money. I got people from my hometown that were doctors and nurses that came there to help because I published my photographs and wrote about it.
And so they found the cat, and they knew the cat came from a refugee family. No one knows where this refugee family went.
That's correct, and they didn't even know their name. They thought that they went to Germany because that was the easiest country to get to for all these families. Germany had the most welcome borders, and they were taking in a lot of refugees. So Amy and Ashley, and I think another friend of theirs, they started a social media campaign basically looking in Germany for a family that they didn't know, for a cat that they had renamed DS.
They started a Facebook page?
They started a Facebook page. I think they used Twitter, and shortly after that, they got some media attention. I think a paper wrote about that, and so they used social media. But other media outlets saw about it, and a few of them wrote about it. And then because they were looking in Germany, they sent the cat to Berlin, where a family offered to take it in and be the foster parents for the cat. They agreed to keep the cat for 1 year while everyone looked for the rightful owners of the cat. And after a year, if we couldn't find them, they said that they would keep the cat.
I'm assuming that the cat is found?
Well, yes, the cat actually was found because the mother saw a picture of the cat in a newspaper online on Valentine's Day in 2016.
Really? On Valentine's Day? And is this when they're reunited?
That's maybe a day later. Amy and her friend Michelle, they Skyped with the family first, so the family could see the picture of their cat on the computer. And for the first time in over 3 months, the cat heard its lost family say its name, and it perked up and just, it was the first time it heard its real name, KUNKUSH. So then we knew that they were the family, because the cat had a definite reaction to hearing its name.
After the Skype visit, you played an important role in reuniting the family with the cat, didn't you?
I did, because of the group of us that were all involved in trying to find this cat's way home, I was the last person left in Greece. So I offered to go to Berlin, get the cat, and fly it to Norway, and then I actually had to take 2 flights because it was way, way up in northern.
Near the North Pole.
Near the north, the coldest I've probably been in my life, and I've been cold before. So I took a couple of flights, which were not easy, because the first flight that was very inexpensive, they weren't going to let the cat on the plane.
Really?
They were going to put the cat underneath the plane, and because the cat had to be cleaned up and whatnot just a few months, 2 months before that, he didn't have much fur, so I couldn't do that. I couldn't put the cat underneath the plane, so I had to buy another plane ticket from another airline where they said that yes, you could take the cat on the plane. And even then, when I got to the gate, they weren't going to let the cat on the plane. The ticket agent said, no, this carrier, the carrier that we spoke about, is not big enough for the cat. It is not our regulations. And by then, the cat was meowing, and many people were standing around, and they were looking at the cat, and I told them this is the most famous cat in all of Europe, which was not even a stretch. It was kind of true. And the woman was not going to let me on this plane. And I said, well, what can I do to let the cat on the plane? You have to let the cat on the plane. And she said, the cat must be able to turn around in the carrier. And at that moment, the cat did and pointed its behind at her. And everyone started clapping and saying, the cat turned around, it turned around. So she had no choice, but she let me on the plane.
Right, and so you went up to the northern part of Norway to bring the cat to the family. Were you there when the family and the cat saw each other for the first time?
I was the one that walked in the door with the cat, and there was a local TV station there, and The Guardian had a film crew there, and they did a 2-minute film about this, and it was probably the most emotional moment of my life, and I've had some emotional moments, but they never thought that they would see their cat again. There was no way. And, you know, people told us when we started doing this, you're never going to find this family. And they had a point. We didn't know their name, and we were looking in the wrong country.
The interesting thing about this book is that it is a true story. Everyone enjoys animal stories, and this is a story about a cat, but also it is a story about a family of refugees and the hardship that people that have to leave their home as refugees go through. And this family especially, you know, they had to leave their home and their possessions and lost their pet that they loved. And because of you and your friends, you enabled to give them back something that was very important to them.
I think it's also a story about my friends who just wouldn't give up, and it just shows you what you can do if you really put your mind to it about trying to help someone.
A heartwarming book, and it's an informative book, and I really like to thank you for being here. If you want to learn more about it, the book's available in bookstores and at libraries, and you can learn everything that went into the effort to reunite this cat and its family. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me,
Yes.
and thanks for helping get the word out about the book and these people too.
Yes. Remember, until next time, give a kid a book in any format.